I have only one speaker signed up, Mr. Combo.
Good evening, Honorables. Manny Campbell, 621 Harbor Drive. Of course, I come here to speak on behalf of an idea that, as much as it pains me to say, there is no money, and there's not going to be any money, and it's a situation where we really care about our kids. We just have to do this faster. It can't be a snail pace. I see the passion in the advisory board's commitment to this, but they're like, you can tell in their voices that, it's piece here, we hope we can do it. It's an informal agreement, you can negotiate, it's non-binding, all that stuff is fine, but all the funding gets erased if you go in the compact and you negotiate conversion school. It's in the law, it's a state law, where you convert the district school that's in those kind of conditions to charter. Sometimes that is done piecemeal, meaning half the facility, the new part, the elementary school, would be charter, and the other half of the facility would continue being a district school until when the district wants to release the other portion, and then the charter school consumes the entire facility. The funding is private, therefore the village is not involved. The village would have a say in terms of, as a kind of a sponsor capacity, they would have a say on the things you want. But as I share my ideas with you, either by running into you or sending you emails, I got this beautiful email from a very good friend of mine. He was actually my first painting partner in college. And he went up to Georgia, to Buchanan County, and his son is just, he's just a super excelling kid in charter school. And this is a design school that Gwinn County has that's charter, where they literally teach, there's one example he gave me, is they teach the kids to fire rockets into the air and land an egg on the ground without cracking it, okay? The innovative skills and the stuff that takes, aerodynamic, and you can imagine, can only be done through real innovation and real exciting concept, which is charter. Then you have the federal government. Obviously, President Obama is pushing charter. So there's funding galore for facilities like this. And I brought to you all, the documents I have that are just to take you to another place. We're affluent, we're incredibly dynamic cultural-wise, and we can talk forever about the district helping us. They just can't. They just don't have the money. And I don't think it's going to get better, it's going to get worse. And the numbers that Charles expressed, well, we'll never get the money back. We do have to donate. The county as a whole has to donate. That's been said. But we can get back like 7.7 million every year just because 1,200 students, 6,200 comes from the state for charter. Do the math. 1,250 students at 6,200, about 7.7 million every year comes back. And the private sector funds the building of the school. It's county property, so it becomes a conversion school. So I just want you to consider that, because in a workshop for schooling, you definitely got to hear the other side. And that's where the future's heading. The future is charter. And as we experiment more with more charter, you see that the charters are graduating at the same pace as district schools, with students that already come to charter because they failed in district schools. So it's not like the rocket scientist kids, super overachiever kids come to charter. It's usually parents that are desperate because their kids have underachieved in district schools that haven't been reached in some capacity or another. They approach charter. Charter gets up and running quickly because the funding is private, and we're not exasperating and talking like this. I can see it on your faces. I can see it in the crowd. We're anxious. The city's exploding in size because full-time residents bring full-time families, and that's children. And I don't think the school could stay at 1,250 kids. I think the school has got to go to 1,800 kids, and the drop-offs have to be at different times, which I articulated in a guest commentary in 2009. So I know there's traffic concerns, and I know that the thought of having a big facility, of course, touches everybody's nerve development-wise. But it's not an opportunity, it's an obligation. And I I'm here to share that idea because you really have to explore it. And in a conversion school, there's obviously much more teeth legally because there's an obligation when there's a situation like we have where we spend a tremendous amount of money, that we are the donor community. There's almost a compelling reason for the district to allow the school to be converted to charter. And if they don't, then there's implications legally that are binding, that are not complex. That's what I wanted to articulate today. I didn't take 3 minutes, I hope, and if you just allow me to pass these flyers on, and I'll be on my way. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I hadn't planned on speaking today. My name is Julie Dick. I live at 251 Crandon Boulevard. And I think we have an outstanding school in Key Biscayne. People move to Key Biscayne because of the school. And we have a serious problem in terms of capacity. And I just heard tonight for the first time that for $4 million, we could build the additional classrooms that we need now, we need for next year. And I really hope that we can start exploring these options. I know there's not a lot of money in the village budget, in the district budget. There are ways. Councilmember Davey and I met with municipal bonds people. We talked about ways that we could finance something where maybe in 20 years from now, 10 years from now, the village got paid back from the district. There are agreements and very creative ways that schools have figured out things to do. I think if we want people to continue to come to Key Biscayne, for our property values to stay high, we need to put something into the school so we don't have this kind of something that's getting close to a crisis situation. We may not be able to accept more students in the school. So I strongly, strongly urge the council just to figure out a way to find 10 classrooms we need, 5 to 10 classrooms we need just to make it through the next few years. Because it's not fair to our kids that they're in crowded classrooms and don't have the facilities to get a proper educational experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Anybody? Anybody want to talk? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, I also did not plan on speaking. My name is Lisa Arismendi, new resident, 881 Ocean Drive. I'm glad to hear that you visited the school. Did you by any chance check out Mrs. Levine's kindergarten class today?
Maybe.
It is one of the co-taught classes with, I believe, 34 students, 2 teachers. I have twin daughters, one in that class and one in a regular size class. And I urge you to do so. Thank you.
Just so you understand the extent of the problem, my daughter just got accepted into college yesterday and was in Mrs. Levine's class in kindergarten, and there were 35 students. So she's 17,
and she survived.
And she was the only teacher, Mrs. Levine,
Because
with 35 students.
if any of you would
No, she didn't survive. In fact, we took her out of the school after that year. But at least your daughter's got twice the student-teacher ratio that my daughter had.
I welcome any of you if you'd like to sit in for 10 minutes and then sit in Mrs. Nordhagen's class for 10 minutes. You will ask, how does a 5-year-old do that?
It's impossible. I agree. But it's been going on for 17 years.
Does anyone want to take a depression break?
No, look, this is, we know that there are issues. We know the school district's trying to address those issues. Mr. Rafa does a heck of a job at that school. I think it's a great school, and I think they do an outstanding job of teaching our kids. But if there are opportunities for this community, for this village, to assist that school, I think we need to explore them to the fullest extent. And that's really all this compact is saying, is that we will, on these points, we will see if there are ways for us to assist, and if there are, move those forward as we go. But I would really appreciate it, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys would support this, because I think again, this committee has done a heck of a job of as all our committees do. But this committee has really done a job of looking at issues that are important. I mean, there is an Appendix B, but they understand that there is only so much that we can realistically look at, and nothing's going to be done without approval of the council. And the goal is certainly not to engage the council or commit the council to things that it can't do, or that would create a perilous situation financially or otherwise for the village. But if there are ways we can be creative that don't take a lot of financial output, I think we really need to look at them, because it is our most important resource. It's interesting that here in Florida, it's so different from where I've lived. I've lived in Illinois, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Connecticut, and there, the village, the communities, the municipalities are very tied to their local school boards. And there is a real interaction and interdependence. And I would like to see us I would like to see us be that supportive kind of municipality.
I want to understand.